What do you do when your dreams get crushed? Have you ever had a dream that in some way showed you something that would happen in the future? Or have you ever received a word, a prophecy from someone about something that would happen in the future? Or maybe you've received a picture or a vision of something that could possibly happen in the future. It says in both the Old Testament and the New Testament that in these days we will receive dreams, visions, we will be prophesying. God will be speaking to us, and God will be showing us things that will happen in this time, but also things that will happen in the future. And what do you do when you feel like you've received something that possibly is showing you something that will happen in the future, but you're not quite sure if it's your own thoughts or if it's God? Joseph in the Bible, he also had dreams, and these dreams were showing him something that could happen in the future or would happen in the future. But at that specific time, no one really knew. These dreams were showing Joseph what would happen, that he would become a leader in the future. Now, when Joseph shared these dreams with his family, no one believed him. His brothers hated him for sharing his dreams. His father, it says that his father rebuked him, basically saying, Joseph, you're wrong. No one understood that these dreams were actually from God. Now, these dreams were showing Joseph's calling, what he would be in the future. And this shows me that even the people that are closest to us can sometimes miss the calling on our lives. Jacob, his father, missed that calling. He did not understand it at the time. It shows me that even our parents can miss that very calling that God has given us. It also shows me that there can be times when someone can speak out something prophetic and everyone completely miss it. Joseph's brothers completely missed the prophecy. His father at first rebuked it, saying, this is not going to happen because I'm the head, I'm the father. You're not going to lead over me. And they missed it all. And one of the reasons why they missed it was because his brothers were jealous of him. They hated him. And so anything Joseph says is wrong. We don't want to listen to you, Joseph. It doesn't matter if you say God says this, we're not going to listen. It shows me that we too can do the same thing. If we choose to not like a certain person and to not listen to a certain person, we can miss things that God is showing us in the future. We can miss prophecy. And so Joseph now was left alone with these dreams. No one believed him, and he was there wondering whether they were his own dreams or whether these dreams were actually from God. So it can be with you and me. We can receive things, we can speak things out, but there are times when people do not understand what we have received, and so people can choose to not believe, and we can be very alone in what we have received, wondering whether it is God or whether it is ourselves. The story of Joseph also shows us that sometimes we can share too much. Sometimes, like in Joseph's case, he shared something personal, that he would become a leader and that the others would submit to him. Now, directly, his brothers did not like that dream. So there are times when we can share dreams about our own selves or concerning other people, and if that dream does not line up with our own thoughts, we can quickly turn on people because of what they have received. And so Joseph's brothers, they envied him, it says. They were jealous of him. They didn't like his dreams. And jealousy, envy in the church, in the Christian faith, is very dangerous. It pushes people away. And so that's something that you and I constantly need to be looking out for. Envy in the church. And so this envy, this jealousy caused them to cast Joseph into a pit and then afterwards sell him as a slave. After that, they lied to their father, saying that Joseph had been killed by an animal. Now, Joseph had a choice. He's now a slave. His brothers have turned on him. They don't like him. He's alone. No one believes in him. He's now hit the bottom. He's now a servant. He can either become angry and he can become bitter and he can die a grumpy old man, or he can continue to believe in what he first saw. Joseph, he went from being his father's favorite, the favorite son, to becoming a slave. He went from being up the top to the bottom in just a few moments. His brothers ruined his life. Imagine, Joseph had dreams for his life. He had things that he wanted to do, things that he wanted to work with. He had his own plans. He might have had his life planned out, but now he's a slave. His life is ruined, and it's all because of his brothers. So what is Joseph's response in this? He continued to work hard. He did not let the slavery bring him down. He worked hard, he'd done his best, he'd done the best in the situation he was in. This way of living gave Joseph a promotion. So now he's no longer a slave at the bottom. Now he becomes the highest servant. Now he becomes the guardian, the overseer of the master's house and all of his goods. Now things are looking up. Now he has responsibility. Now he has a quite good job. Things are turning around for Joseph. But then the master's wife looks upon Joseph with lust, and then she asks him to lie with her again and again. And Joseph, being a loyal man to God but also to his master, says, "No, I will not lie with you." And so the master's wife, in her disappointment and in her anger, she lies to all of the people in the house and lies to her husband, saying that Joseph has tried to sleep with her. Now that was a complete lie, and Joseph's master, when he hears that, he becomes very angry and throws Joseph into jail. So now Joseph, he was on his way up. Things were looking up for Joseph, but then in just a moment, things went downhill, back to the bottom. Now he's reached the pit twice. Now things are worse than what they were before. And Joseph, when he's in prison, he says this, "I have done nothing to deserve this." That's what he says when he's in prison. I haven't done anything to deserve this. What have I done to deserve being sold as a slave and now I'm in prison? I've just done my best. Has that ever happened to you, where you're just doing your best and you're living life, but then all of a sudden something happens, pang, and then life turns on you, and then all of a sudden something happens that you do not deserve, but it happened anyway? That's what happened to Joseph. He did not deserve to end up in prison. He was just doing his best. And so it can be with you and me. Things can happen in our lives that we do not deserve. We're just doing our best. And so now he ends up in prison. And now he truly has a right to be angry and bitter and die a grumpy man. But what does Joseph do after being lied on, cheated on, abused? Now he's in prison. What does he do? He continues to do his best. He doesn't sit in the corner of his prison cell, sulking, being depressed and feeling sorry for himself. No, he gets up and he works. He uses the platform that he has been given. And this speaks to me so much, because I can feel many times that in order for me to live in my calling, I need to be up here on the right platform. But Joseph shows me that you can use whatever platform is given to you, even if it's in the pit, even in the prison. Use that platform. Do your best in prison. Do your best in the pit. Can I serve God when I'm at my lowest? Can I serve God when I feel like I'm abandoned and alone? Can I serve God even though I've been lied on, abused, cheated on? Can I serve God when I should be depressed? Now, as Joseph is in prison, the king's butler and baker also end up in the prison for crimes they committed against the king. Both of them, in their time in prison, have a dream. And this dream was very deep and interesting for them. And they wondered what this dream was about. But they did not know the interpretation. And so they were sad because they had this very powerful, deep dream, but they could not interpret it. Joseph now, he's working in the prison and he sees their faces. He sees that they are sad. And he asks them basically, what's the matter? What's up? Now this shows me that Joseph was in a place where he could see the need of other people. He wasn't sulking and feeling sorry for himself, looking at himself. He was looking to the needs of other people, even in the prison. He did not deserve to be there, but he was still looking out for people. It says that Joseph served them. He was their servant. And so he was still walking in his calling, even in prison. Even at his lowest, he's still serving. Wherever, whenever, he's serving God. Joseph, he gives their interpretations. He's still walking in the Spirit. He's still using his spiritual giftings even in prison. Even at his lowest, he's still operating in the Spirit. He says, God through me can interpret these dreams. And so he's still operating in the Spirit. He's still being used. He's not letting the prison bring him down. He's using the platform he's been given. And so he gives the interpretations. And he tells the butler that he will receive his job back. Joseph says to the butler, when you get your job back, remember me. Make mention of me to the king, so that I can also come out of here. And the butler receives his job back. What happens when the butler gets his job? The butler forgets Joseph, completely forgets Joseph. And he forgets everything that Joseph has done for him. You see, the butler used Joseph. The butler had a need. He had a spiritual need. Help me. Joseph gave him the help. And when the butler received the help, and when he was back on his feet, then he forgot Joseph. Joseph was used. There can be times in our lives where we can be used, both for our abilities, but also for our spiritual giftings. And Joseph was used. There can be times when there is a need and people may ask you for your help, and you give them help, but then when they are back on their feet, they forget you. They no longer need you. As long as things are rolling, we don't need you. But when there is a need, then we'll call you. That's how it was for Joseph. 2 years pass. Joseph is still in prison. After 2 more years of prison, the king has a dream. And the king needs an interpretation. And then the butler remembers Joseph. Oh yes, now I remember. There was a man in prison who interpreted my dream. Now there is a need. Now I remember Joseph. Joseph was used for his interpretations, for his spiritual giftings. And so Joseph has a choice now. He can say, nope, I ain't gonna help you now. I've been in prison for 2 years and you've forgotten me. Now you need help? He could say no. But he said yes. And he gives the king his interpretation. And the king is pleased with his interpretation. And the king is so pleased that the king promotes Joseph, takes him out of prison, and makes him second in charge in Egypt. Joseph becomes a leader. But the truth is, Joseph was always a leader. He had always been a leader. Even from 17 years old, when God called him and God showed him that he would become a leader, he was a leader. He was a leader in his master's house. He was a leader in the prison. He was a leader in Egypt. He was always a leader. He was just learning how to lead before he would become the greatest leader or one of the greatest leaders. So all that time as a servant, serving in the prison, it was all a part of his education to when he would become leader in Egypt. It was part of his education. 7 years pass, and now there is a drought in the land, and Joseph's family are in need of food. Egypt are the only ones that have food. So Joseph's brothers come down to Egypt to buy food. Now, at this time, Joseph, he is in charge of all of the food. He is leader. So his brothers come to Joseph, and Joseph sees his brothers' faces for the first time in many years. When they come to Joseph, what do? They bow down, just as Joseph saw in his dream. Dream fulfilled. Joseph was 17 years old when he had those dreams. It says that he was 30 years old when he came before the king. Then you have another 7 years after that before the drought came. So you have 17 years old until 30 years old. That's 13 years. Plus another 7 years until the drought. That's 20 years. That means from the time of the dream to the time of the fulfilling of the dream, you've got around 20 years. It took around 20 years for Joseph's dreams to be fulfilled. And it says that Joseph, when he saw his brothers bow down, he remembered the dreams. He remembered, now I get it. Now I understand why life has been like this. I get it. In time, Joseph reveals himself to his brothers, realizing that all this time was just a process in his life in order to become the man that God wanted him to be. And it's as if he understands his life for the first time. I understand now why I went through what I went through. And Joseph says to his brothers, you sold me. You sold me as a slave. You done something evil to me. But God sent me here. You thought that you sent me here? No. God sent me here. You meant it for evil, but God meant it for good. You see, you think that you made me come here, but in reality, now I get it. It was actually God that sent me here. I get it now. It says in Psalm 105 verse 17 and also 222, it talks about Joseph, and it says that there was a man sent to save God's people. Who was this person? This person was called Joseph. He was sent. Psalms was written many years later. Joseph was sent. He was sent by God. It looked like that his brothers caused him to become a slave, and then it looked like that the lady caused him to end up in prison. But in reality, he was sent. He was sent to Egypt. Why? He was sent to save lives. He was sent to save his family's lives, because there was a drought in the land and someone needed to save his family, and God saw the future. So God knew that he had to send someone to Egypt, someone that could have power, someone that could have control over the food, so that he could give food to his people. And so he sent Joseph to Egypt so that when his family would come, Joseph could look after them. It was a plan to save his family's life. And so God used all of the hurt, all of the pain, all of the rejections, all of the abuse to prepare him for his leadership. You see, he was going to become a great leader. And so he needed to be tough, but also he needed to have leadership skills. You see, that's why he became a leader as a servant. That's why his master made him a leader. He was the overseer. He needed to learn how to organize. He needed to learn how to lead other people. He needed to learn responsibility. That's why he became a leader in the prison, because he needed to learn how to lead people, how to look after people. You see, all of those stages in life were a part of his education to become a great leader. He was learning how to be a leader in the pit. Do you know how many lives Joseph saved? I don't know, but I know it was thousands upon thousands. You see, Joseph was sent to save lives. All of that process he went through, becoming a slave, being lied on, going into prison, it was a part of the process to save lives, save his family, but also save many other people. It was Joseph that received the knowledge of how to save a nation, how to save people from a drought. It shows me that the situations you are in can be preparing you in order to save your family, save people. He's preparing you to save. Those dreams that he had when he was 17, they could have been crushed a long time ago. They could have been crushed when he was 17, but he held on and he went the whole way. Imagine if Joseph had given up halfway through. His family would have died in the drought. Thousands of people would have died, but he continued. You don't know who you are going to save in the future by holding on. You do not know how much you are worth and how much thought God has put into your life. Joseph's life, it went up and it went down, and it went up and it went down. But it was all a part of the process to become the great leader, to become someone who would save his family, someone who would save a nation, save thousands of people. So many times we can feel like this up and down is a bad thing. But when we see Joseph, we realize that it was necessary for him to learn these skills, to become that man, to be able to go from one place to the other. He was sent, and he needed to go through that process in order to save lives. So don't look at situations that are bad as a bad thing, because if God really has called you and sent you, then this up and down is just a part of the process in order to get you to a place where you are ready, where you are prepared for that calling. Remember, it took 20 years for Joseph's dream to be fulfilled. So don't lose heart if it's gone 1 year, 2, 3, 4, 5. It took 20 years. There are times when it takes a long time. So don't give up. What do you do when your dreams get crushed? I would say hold on. Believe. Don't lose hope. Because if those dreams are truly from God, it could be so that every situation you're going through, all of the lies, the abuse, being used, being mistreated, it could be a part of the process to take you to the place where God wants you to be, so that you can save your family and even other people's lives. Taking you to a place where one day you'll look back and you will remember your dreams like Joseph did, and your dream will be fulfilled. So hold on.